Ladies and gentlemen, let me tell you something real, something most people don't want to hear. You don't need motivation, you need a wake-up call. Right now, somewhere deep inside, you already know you're capable of more. But you're choosing comfort, you're choosing delay, you're choosing later. And life doesn't negotiate with later. At some point, it will force you to wake up. It might come as failure. It might come as regret. It might come when it's already too late. And that's the problem. Why wait for pain to teach you what discipline could have taught you earlier? Why wait until you're broke to respect money? Why wait until you're exhausted to value your time? Why wait until you lose everything to realize what mattered? Listen, the world doesn't owe you anything. No one is coming to push you. No one is coming to save you. You either wake up now or life will wake you up later, and trust me, it won't be gentle. The difference between winners and everyone else isn't talent, it's awareness. Winners see the storm coming and they prepare. Others ignore the clouds and then complain when it rains. Comfort feels safe, but it quietly limits everything you're capable of becoming. When you stay in a place where things are easy, predictable, and familiar, you stop pushing yourself. You stop learning new skills, stop taking risks, and stop growing. At first, it doesn't feel like a problem because nothing is going wrong. In fact, everything feels fine. But that's exactly the danger. Fine is the trap that keeps you from reaching something greater. Growth only happens when you are challenged. When you step into situations where you are unsure, where you might fail, where you feel pressure, that's where real progress begins. Comfort removes all of that. It convinces you that where you are is enough, even when deep down you know you can do more. Over time, this creates a gap between who you are and who you could have been. The biggest issue with comfort is that it builds habits of avoidance. You start avoiding hard work, difficult conversations, and big decisions. You delay things that matter because they feel uncomfortable. This delay slowly turns into missed opportunities. While you're waiting for the right moment, someone else is taking action, learning faster, and moving ahead. Comfort also weakens your ability to handle pressure. If you never challenge yourself, even small difficulties start to feel overwhelming. On the other hand, when you regularly step outside your comfort zone, you build resilience. You become someone who can adapt, solve problems, and stay strong when things get tough. Another hidden danger is that comfort creates a false sense of security. You might think things will always stay the same, but life is unpredictable. Industries change, opportunities disappear, and circumstances shift. If you've been too comfortable for too long, you may find yourself unprepared when life suddenly demands more from you. Choosing discomfort doesn't mean choosing pain for no reason. It means choosing growth over stagnation. It means doing the work when you don't feel like it, taking risks when there are no guarantees, and pushing forward even when it's hard. That's where confidence is built, not by staying safe, but by proving to yourself that you can handle more than you thought. In the end, comfort is not the reward, it's the obstacle. It keeps you still while everything else moves forward. If you want progress, you have to be willing to give up the ease you have now for the potential you could reach. Time is the one thing you can never control. Pause or get back once it's gone. Every second moves forward whether you're ready or not, whether you're working or wasting it. That's why the idea that you're either early or late is so powerful. Because there is no standing still. You're either taking action ahead of the curve or you're falling behind without even realizing it. Most people believe they have plenty of time. They think they can start tomorrow, next week, or next year. But that mindset slowly puts them in a position where they're always reacting instead of leading. Being early means you act before things become urgent. You prepare before problems show up. You build skills before they're required. On the other hand, being late means you wait until pressure forces you to move, and by then your options are limited. When you're early, you have space to make mistakes and learn from them. You're not rushed, you're not desperate, and you're not forced into bad decisions. You get to experiment, improve, and grow at your own pace. But when you're late, everything becomes stressful. You're trying to catch up, fix problems quickly, and survive instead of thrive. That pressure often leads to poor choices and missed opportunities. Time also rewards consistency. Small actions done early compound into big results later. If you start improving yourself today, learning, building, working, those efforts stack up. Months and years later, the difference becomes massive. But if you delay, you don't just lose time, you lose the compound effect of that time. Starting late means you have to work twice as hard just to reach the same point. Another reality is that the world keeps moving forward. Technology evolves, industries change, competition increases. If you're not moving early, someone else is. While you're thinking about starting, someone else has already started, failed, learned, and improved. That's the gap that grows between those who act early and those who wait. Being early doesn't require perfection. It requires decision and action. You don't need to have everything figured out. You just need to begin. The earlier you start, the more chances you have to adjust, learn, and succeed. Waiting for the perfect moment is what pushes you into being late, because that moment rarely comes. At its core, this idea is about responsibility. No one else controls how you use your time. Every day, you choose whether to invest it or waste it. And those choices quietly shape your future. If you consistently act early, you build momentum and control. If you delay, time eventually controls you. Pain is often seen as something to avoid, something negative that should never be part of your life. But in reality, pain carries messages that comfort never will. It exposes weaknesses, reveals truth, and forces you to confront areas you've been ignoring. The problem is not pain itself. The problem is waiting until pain becomes the only teacher you're willing to listen to. There are two ways to learn in life. You can learn through awareness and discipline, or you can learn through consequences. The first way is controlled. You choose to improve, to grow, to push yourself before anything goes wrong. The second way is forced. Life puts you in a situation where you have no choice but to change. And that kind of pain is always harder, heavier, and more costly. For example, if you ignore your health, your body will eventually send signals. At first, it's small discomfort, something easy to fix. But if you keep ignoring it, that discomfort turns into serious problems. The same pattern exists in finances, relationships, and personal growth. Small warnings are always there, but they're easy to overlook because they don't hurt enough yet. Pain becomes a teacher when those small warnings are ignored for too long. It shows up as failure, loss, regret, or struggle. And in that moment, the lesson becomes clear. But now it comes with a cost. You don't just learn, you pay for the lesson with time, energy, or opportunities you can't get back. The smarter approach is to learn before pain forces you to. That means paying attention to the early signs. It means being honest with yourself about what needs to change, even when it's uncomfortable. Discipline is a form of controlled pain. It's choosing to do what's hard now so you can avoid something much harder later. When you push yourself to improve, wake up early, work harder, or step outside your comfort zone, it doesn't feel easy. But that discomfort is small compared to the pain of regret or failure that comes from inaction. One is temporary and builds you up. The other is lasting and breaks you down. Pain also has a way of making things undeniable. When it hits hard enough, excuses disappear. You can no longer ignore reality. That's why many people only change after something goes wrong. They finally see clearly. But by then, they've already lost time and chances that could have been saved. Understanding pain as a teacher means respecting it before it arrives. It means recognizing that every small discomfort is an opportunity to learn early, to adjust, and to grow without heavy consequences. If you choose to listen early, you stay in control. If you ignore it, life eventually takes control and teaches you in a way you won't forget. Discipline is often misunderstood as restriction or pressure, but in reality, it's a form of protection. It's the set of actions you choose today that quietly shape your future. When you commit to discipline, you are not just doing hard things for the sake of it. You are building a system that keeps you from falling into regret later. Most regret doesn't come from failure, it comes from inaction, from knowing you could have done more, tried harder, started earlier, or stayed consistent, but you didn't. That feeling doesn't show up immediately. It builds over time. As days turn into months and opportunities pass by, discipline is what interrupts that cycle before regret has a chance to grow. Choosing discipline means doing what needs to be done even when you don't feel like doing it. It's waking up when you'd rather sleep, working when you'd rather relax, and staying focused when distractions are easier. In the moment, it feels uncomfortable. It feels like you're missing out on ease or pleasure. But what you're actually doing is investing in peace of mind for the future. Without discipline, life becomes reactive. You start making decisions based on mood instead of purpose. If you feel motivated, you act. If you don't, you stop. This inconsistency creates unstable progress. You move forward, then backward, then stay stuck. Over time, that lack of structure leads to missed goals and unrealized potential. Discipline removes that uncertainty. It creates consistency, and consistency builds results. When you show up every day, even in small ways, you create momentum. And momentum is powerful. It makes progress feel natural instead of forced. The more disciplined you become, the less you rely on motivation, and the more control you have over your direction. Another important aspect of discipline is that it builds self-respect. Every time you follow through on what you said you would do, you strengthen your trust in yourself. You become someone who keeps promises, not just to others, but to yourself. That confidence carries into every area of life, making you more reliable, focused, and capable. On the other hand, a lack of discipline slowly erodes that trust. When you constantly delay, avoid, or quit, you begin to doubt your own ability. That doubt leads to hesitation, and hesitation leads to missed chances. Eventually, you may find yourself looking back, wishing you had been more consistent when it mattered. Regret is heavy because it cannot be changed. You can't go back and fix lost time or missed effort. But discipline gives you control in the present. It allows you to act now in a way that prevents those future feelings. It's not about being perfect. It's about being consistent enough to move forward. In the end, discipline is a choice you make daily. It's not always easy, and it's rarely comfortable, but it pays off in a way nothing else does. It replaces "I wish I had" with "I'm glad I did," and that difference defines the direction of your life. Everyone gets a wake-up call at some point in life. The difference is not whether it happens, but how it happens. You can choose to wake up on your own through awareness and intentional action, or you can wait until life forces you to face reality. One is controlled and empowering. The other is sudden and often painful. When you take control of your own wake-up call, you are deciding to be honest with yourself before circumstances demand it. You recognize where you're falling short, where you're wasting time, and where you need to improve. This kind of awareness requires courage because it's not comfortable to admit that you need to change. But that discomfort is small compared to what happens when you ignore it. If you don't make that choice, life eventually steps in. It forces clarity through situations you didn't plan for, failure, loss, missed opportunities, or moments where you realize you're far behind where you wanted to be. These moments hit harder because they come with consequences. You're not just learning, you're dealing with the results of not acting sooner. The reason this happens is simple: life moves forward regardless of your readiness. It doesn't pause while you figure things out or wait until you feel prepared. If you delay your growth, your decisions, or your effort, the gap between where you are and where you need to be continues to grow. Eventually, that gap becomes impossible to ignore. Taking control early gives you options. You can move at your own pace, make mistakes without severe consequences, and adjust your path as you learn. You are proactive instead of reactive. But when life forces you to wake up, your options shrink. You're under pressure, time feels limited, and the cost of mistakes becomes much higher. Another important part of this idea is responsibility. No one else is going to make this decision for you. People might give advice, opportunities might appear, but in the end, it's your choice whether you act or not. Blaming circumstances, waiting for the right moment, or hoping things will change on their own only delays the inevitable. Choosing your own wake-up call also builds strength. It trains your mind to face reality instead of avoiding it. You become more aware, more focused, and more in control of your direction. Instead of being surprised by life, you start anticipating challenges and preparing for them. Ignoring that responsibility creates a false sense of comfort. Everything feels okay for a while, so it's easy to believe that change isn't urgent. But urgency doesn't always show up immediately. It builds quietly. And when it finally arrives, it often comes all at once. At its core, this is about deciding who's in control, you or your circumstances. If you choose to wake up now, you take ownership of your future. If you don't, life eventually makes that decision for you, and it rarely asks for your permission when it does. The message is simple: wake up now or life will wake you up later. Comfort will hold you back, time will not wait, pain will teach you, discipline will shape you, and your choices will define you. You have the power to act before it's too late. So don't wait for the moment that forces you to change. Be the one who chooses to change. Wake up, take control, and build the life you know you're capable of. Thank you.